What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today for another Frosty Features. This is episode 40 of the Frosty Features. What this is a comic book background on the toons that you use in Marvel Strike Force. Today, we have our first member of the Masters of Evil team coming to Marvel Strike Force, Titania. Currently, as of the recording right now, we have her available in Red Star Orbs, and people, we've got a free claim Friday, so we've got a little bit of shards, got a little taste. We are going to talk about where she comes from, who she is, etc., and we're gonna have a great time. And let us just go ahead and dive on in, methinks. According to Scopely, so Scopely actually did not release a Scopely didn't release a description of Titania. Usually they give a little blurb. As to who the character is. They did not for Titania. I've been going back through the updates, all the release notes. Sometimes they sneak them into patch notes and things like that. They have not released it. This is the only thing they said in regards to her. And more or less, they were like, we've already said this, so we're not going to say it again. And they never did. So Titania will be dropping into battle soon. So today we'll be covering the other three Masters of Evil, and they give descriptions of Absorbing Man, Kang, and Moonstone, but they did not give one for Titania. So I don't really have anything, according to Scopely's fairly new on Frosty Features, I don't have anything to rail on other than the fact that they kind of implied here that she's already there. So we're going to focus on the other three, even though they never focused on Titania. So it is what it is. So, one thing I do want to point out, I'm going to be talking about Titania in the comics. We do the comic book characters here on Frosty Features, and we focus on the 616 universe. The model for Titania in Marvel Strike Force is based off of the She-Hulk show. And Titania in the She-Hulk show has a different background almost entirely, right? But we still have the same power sets and things like that, so it still applies. A lot of stuff from the show does parallel comics, but their personalities are a little bit different. So let's talk about Titania. So this is what she looks like from the comics. I know it's so much better than the model we're getting in Marvel Strike Force. It is, yeah, I hope this costume comes along eventually. I don't really care for the design of Titania in She-Hulk. Name, Mary McFerrin. Name is Mary McFerrin out of in the 616. Her first appearance was in Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars #3 in 1984. Personally, so just to put it in context, because I like to talk about comic books, for me, I have this really funny thing where my comic book days started when I was a kid in the late 90s, and I was, I hope some of you are like, wow, you don't look that old, but I was a kid in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I was picking up books. This is important. I was picking up books at flea markets and stuff, so my main basis in comics are from the 70s and the 90s, and I have this weird gap in the 80s, which is pretty funny. So Titania for me for a long time was just another villain character. She kind of fell into like this wave. She kind of feels like Rhino to me, where it's like she shows up to be defeated most of the time, right? To me. Because I wasn't reading a whole bunch of, I wasn't reading a whole bunch of She-Hulk. I didn't start reading She-Hulk until the last few years, right? So when she showed up, which she would, outside of She-Hulk comics, when she would show up, to me, she was just another villain to get her butt kicked, right? She was often with Absorbing Man or somebody else, and just getting her ass handed to her, so I never really paid that much attention to her, until more recently, with some She-Hulk hype. Right? Powers and ability, superhuman strength. So Titania really is, she's superhuman plus, kind of. She more or less has, and we'll talk about specifically the background here in a second, but she more or less has the standard super soldier premise, the standard super soldier stuff, plus strength, right? So she's super durable. She's, she has super reflexes, more or less super fast. She's fast, over peak athleticism, speed, reflexes, but strength, she's dummy strong. So, namely, she has super strength, and she has it in in abundance. Her big thing is she is the rival to She-Hulk, so she has strength. Her strength isn't necessarily comparable to She-Hulk's necessarily. The thing is, you have to remember that as a Hulk, your strength scales. So her strength is higher than base level She-Hulk, but if She-Hulk gets mad at all, She-Hulk trashes Titania almost every single time, pretty much every single time. There's a few times we'll talk about today on this feature where she, kind of can get the better of her. But for the most part, she's stronger than base level She-Hulk, but it just takes a little bit of agitation to swap that over. So she is super strong, but, I'm trying not to overplay her strength. She really, and in reading and doing my research for this feature, I realized how deep of a character this character can be, which we didn't get in the She-Hulk show at all. So it'll be really interesting. I find it really interesting it's really important to point out that she is super strong, but in context, she's not much stronger than most other superhumans, or a lot of other superhumans. Aliases Skirn and Thunder Girl, and people often refer to her in a derogatory term as Skeeter. So this kind of goes into what I was talking about, that she's kind of deep. Skirn, there's an arc where she kind of takes on that new name as well as Thunder Girl, but she always kind of comes back to Titania. There is, if you bother to look up Titania in the Marvel universe as far as comics go, we talked about the wrestling league, the Superhuman Wrestling League that is in the comic books. There is a different Titania, but this is the one that is She-Hulk's rival and such. Just made me think of it because of the different name. But I probably should have thrown Skeeter on here. She doesn't go by Skeeter, but it is a relic from before her time having superpowers. Affiliations, Masters of Evil. Scopely got this one right. Most of the time they like to put tags that don't belong. Titania is absolutely part of the Masters of Evil. She's part of, I believe it's the second or third run of Masters of Evil. Because teams break up and come together. She's pretty early on in the Masters of Evil lore. Gamma Flight, more recently, she's a part of Gamma Flight, and she's a part of the Illuminati. There's an evil Illuminati led by the Hood, and she kind of joins in with that. And we'll talk about that later. Background. Now we can talk about where these sweet powers come from. She is from Denver, Colorado, and she was born premature. As she grew, she has sisters and things. She's very small. She grew up being the smallest among everybody else. She's very weak. She's meager, and she has all these fantasies of being more than what she is. Right? She struggles with she kind of struggles with the fact that she can't more or less do anything right. She's not satisfied with her job. She is, lesser than her sisters. She's physically weak. She's sick all the time. And she just dreams of being famous and being respected, really. And people make fun of her because of how small she is and how weak and meager she is, in personality, etc. So she has these disillusioned fantasies of fame and glory and people respecting her or whatever. And this dreaming for years and years and years and being so unfulfilled in her life kind of made her really, not regretful, but she has a lot of spite to the people around her. She gets bullied in high school a lot. She's not invited to things, by fellow coworkers at work because, they think she's just this weak, whatever. So in an attempt to get more attention, she starts telling people that she's Spider-Woman. She's Spider-Woman's alter ego. And one of her, she has one friend, which is, Marsha Rosenberg. I'm glad I took notes on this one. Marsha, I don't know much about her. I know a little bit about her, but not much. But her friend Marsha Rosenberg takes that secret identity thing that she is telling people, and they start spreading it around, and so it gets her a little bit of acclaim, a little bit of whatever with her immediate work group or whatever. And then Denver, Colorado is ripped out of the earth to form Battle World and Secret Wars, and with that they're all ripped up or whatever, and she's with her work team, and so they all get ripped up, and immediately her coworkers are like, you're Spider-Woman, save us. And she's like, yeah, actually, I'm just kind of weak and I can't really do anything. And so all of them are in Battle World and they're like, you don't even get to like flee with us. Like they're fleeing into the woods. They're like, you don't even get to flee with us. Just get out of here. And so they're more or less left to die on Battle World. And then lo and behold, Dr. Doom, strolling through the woods like he does, he stumbles upon Marsha Rosenberg and Titania, and he's like, he does the whole Dr. Doom thing where he's like, you know what, evil's cool. I'm trying to make an army of supervillains. How about you let me give you superpowers? And both of them are like, that sounds pretty cool. So Marsha Rosenberg becomes Volcana, which I know her a little bit more as that, but still not that much. But ultimately, she has like a lava makeup situation and boom, 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 yeah. So she becomes Volcana, and our sweet, meager little Mary McFerrin becomes Titania. So in doing so, she automatically becomes physically stronger. She becomes much larger. And her personality more or less flips. She goes from being meager to being extremely, extremely arrogant, right? She becomes very arrogant and very forthright because she thinks she's going to be like super strong and take all this stuff out. And she automatically kind of becomes Doom's lackey for a very short period of time. He sort of turns around. He's like, become these supervillains. Haha. And she's like, I'm going to be Titania because I'm like a Titan and I'm strong. And then he's like, yes, go forth. And then he just kind of forgets about her and that's it. And then she's Titania from now on. She doesn't really get a personality until after she first fights She-Hulk. And then the comic book society is like, yo, these two kind of work together. So let's make this more of a thing. So yes, that's a thing. Fragile arrogance, a thing. So I talked about her being really deep, and a thing that I really find interesting about Titania. So her arrogance is overbearing. She like, I'm gonna, you can't do this without me. I'm the strongest woman alive. That's her thing. I'm the strongest woman alive. Like, you're not gonna be able to take me out or whatever. And she's the type of person, right? And I find this really interesting because most other supervillains aren't this way. When they're heavily arrogant, like Dr. Doom, you could beat the living crap out of Dr. Doom and he still will look at you and be like, you're not worthy of punching me or whatever, right? Titania is the type that's like, I'm so strong, like you're just gonna waste your time hitting me, and then you get one good lick in, and automatically she's like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, she is a supervillain who she gets. There's a thing in like kind of like in a street fight kind of martial arts community thing that you make your assailant worry about themselves. She is the type of villain to worry about herself. As soon as you get one good lick in on Titania, it's very probable that she will run away. Which I find really interesting because you don't see it that much. Yeah, in chat, somebody said, don't forget the fact that she's deathly afraid of Spider-Man. That's actually what I'm alluding to. So in Secret Wars is a very big arc for Spider-Man, and she runs into him, and at first she's super arrogant. She's like, I'm gonna squash the little spider type situation, whatever. And then as soon as Spider-Man starts moving around her, she recognizes that he hits hard enough and he's so much faster than her that she has no chance of beating him, and she becomes deathly afraid of Spider-Man, even referring to it as arachnophobia. And she gets over it later as she's trying to kind of train herself up. But to put it into context of what her power level actually comes out to is Spider-Man decimates her in this fight. This first fight, Spider-Man decimates her, webs her up, ties her up, picks her up, throws her through a wall, and refers to her as just being like weak trash to get out of the way. Like just like absolutely decimates her confidence. So she essentially gets decimated like that and rebuilds it over and over and over. So even after she gets off Battleworld and returns to Earth, she's still afraid of Spider-Man for a long time. She gets over it eventually, but absolutely scared of Spider-Man. Repeat offender. One thing I find, one of the reasons why I say that Titania sort of falls into the background for me a lot, her stories almost always start off with, I'm in a supermax prison and I'm breaking out. So very often she's breaking out of the vault. That's sort of, she lands in other prisons, but like she mainly ends up in the vault. Typically, her stories either start with her going in or breaking out of the vault, or they end with her going into the vault or another prison, right? So it's a big thing. She's always getting captured and put away because she really isn't that strong. She serves as a good foil for She-Hulk, but other than that, she really doesn't have that much to kind of give. She's not the main villain, right? Which is funny because it's reflective of her I'm going back to that deep thing. It's reflective of her before her superpowers. She was never the main person in the room. She was never the center of the attention, and that's why she became a villain in the first place, really. It's funny to see how vicious she gets as a villain. I'll talk about it here in a little bit, actually. Relationships. Carl Creel, the Absorbing Man, is her husband. They meet on Battle World, and they buddy up, and then after they return to Earth, they kind of meet up and kind of begin this relationship, and they end up getting married, and she adopts Carl Creel's son, Jerry Sledge. So it's not officially adopts. So Jerry Sledge, Stonewall, is Carl Creel's son, but he raped a lady, and she had Jerry, and then Jerry grows up, and he's like, I need to make sure my dad never finds my mom. Dad ends up finding the mom because dad finds out that he has a son, and then in trying to protect him, Absorbing Man puts him in the hospital, and he awakes in the hospital to find out that his mother has perished. So it's not a good relationship that they have, but maybe someday we'll do a Stonewall Frosty feature, but it's a really cool story. Technically, because her husband is Carl Creel, her stepson is Jerry Sledge, but there isn't really a relationship there necessarily. We don't know. We know that she has sisters, and we don't know what her parents' names are. So that's all the relationship information I have. Notable events: getting the Power Gem. So one of my favorite comic book arcs of all time. If you read one comic book arc, especially if you like the Infinity War movies, the Infinity Saga, as far as the MCU is concerned, read Thanos Quest, okay? So Thanos Quest is how Thanos originally gets the power gems in Marvel 616. It is so fun. I really like Thanos Quest, the arc. Titania gets the power gem, and what this does, so it's the same thing as the Infinity Stones in the MCU. The power gem it increases her power a lot, right? And the way she gets the power gem is the champion, who's the original the original gem holder. That's who Thanos gets it from in the first place. The champion ends up getting it back. I believe Gamora and the Infinity Watch give it back to the champion, but the champion ends up, even with the Power Stone, fighting She-Hulk at one point, and She-Hulk beats the champion bad. And in doing so, the champion, we talk about arrogance, the champion is legitimately the most arrogant dude, probably next to Doctor Doom in the Marvel Universe. Write it down, right? So She-Hulk just beats the crap out of him, right? Just absolutely just shames the fool. And in beating him, he bet, he was like, well, if you could beat me, I'll never use this stone again. And she's like, all right, let's go. Like, because he sat there, he's meant to guard the stone. And She-Hulk's like, bet, all right, cool, let's do this. And she shames him. And his pride, his wonderful, so important ego is hurt. So his response is, well, She-Hulk's rival is Titania, and I can't use the power gem, but she can. So champion seeks out Titania, and he's like, here, take this and beat the living crap out of She-Hulk. And Titania, her whole thing in life, she has decided, she's like, to prove myself, I need to prove to the world that I am the strongest woman on the planet, so I must beat She-Hulk, right? So she takes the power gem and she's like, let's go, She-Hulk, and she beats the crap out of She-Hulk, finally. It's usually Titania, She-Hulk wins, She-Hulk wins. Titania beats She-Hulk. She-Hulk gets away, kind of reassesses the situation, goes back to fight Titania again, and once again gets the crap beat out of her. Titania did not beat She-Hulk once, ladies and gentlemen, beat her twice to a pulp. But the second time, She-Hulk has a plan, right? Fragile, arrogance, ego, Titania. She-Hulk knows Titania better than anybody because they cross paths constantly, right? She-Hulk pretends to be dead, right? And in doing so, Titania starts to freak out. She's like, what's my purpose in life? Like, I'm the strongest woman now, but so what? What do I strive for? What do I live for? What am I going to do? And she starts having this mental breakdown. She's like, well, I don't know. What am I supposed to do with my life? Like, it's funny too. The panels are so perfect. The panels following the ones that are showing here. She's standing there, because she beats her down, and then it looks like she's impaled and all this thing. And she's standing there, and she just goes, now what? And then she starts thinking about it. She's like, well, I don't know what to do next. Oh my God, like I have no purpose in life. Like, what's going on? And she starts freaking out, and She-Hulk just grabs that power gem. It's not quite that easy, but anyway, She-Hulk gets the power gem, and Titania's like, oh no, and She-Hulk's like, yeah, and She-Hulk, Chapois, one punch knocks her out. One hit KO, one punch just takes her out. Dunskies takes that power gem back, and the rivalry resumes because She-Hulk returns the power gem and what have you. Yeah, one punch woman, Rolf Geared says in the chat. Absolutely. One punch takes her out. Read Thanos Quest. This is a fun, that Titania story is just a fun little follow-up to Thanos Quest, or something that's similar to it. You don't see Champion very often. So anytime he's referenced, I'm like, read Thanos Quest. It's so good. The Champion part's probably the worst part. Anyway, so number 2, Titania goes through a phase where she decides she's tired of being, as I said, most of her stories are her being put into jail and taken out of jail. She goes through a situation where she's like, okay, maybe I should just be a good guy, right? Because she feels like the type of character that would flip back and forth, maybe anti-hero fame, and maybe that's something in the future, but right now, she decides to go legit one time so far that I'm aware of. She decides to go legit, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Jen Walters being She-Hulk, she's like, Jen, I'm gonna be good. She got out on parole. She didn't even break out of the jail. She's like, I'm gonna be good. Can you help me get a job? And she's like, yeah, I get you a job. Gets her a job at a pawn shop. She's all posted up or whatever. And then these people come in to rob the pawn shop, and Titania's like, yeah, that's not gonna fly, bro. And just like more like essentially punches him through a wall. And the pawn shop owner shows up and is like, Titania, what are you doing? Or Mary, what are you doing? Like, you can't destroy my shop. What are you, like, what's going on? And the police show up and they're like, oh my God, it's Titania. She's robbing this pawn shop, like, automatically. And so she starts freaking out. She's trying so hard to be good. And then the Hood shows up, and the Hood's like, yo, like, I'm gonna save you, blah, 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 blah. You need to join my evil Illuminati, and we're gonna take over the world, and we're gonna kill a bunch of people, and it's gonna be awesome. And so they do it, and they move out. She's like, fine, I'll go with you. There's no point in me trying to be good. Everybody already sees me as being evil. And then she's with the Illuminati for some time, pulling different heists and, attempting these assassination type things. And she has a couple character conflicts because she famously tried to kill Hercules while her and Absorbing Man tried to kill Hercules while Hercules was in a hospital bed, but then the pair get freaking owned by Ant-Man and the Wasp. But in this situation, at a point, she works for the Illuminati. Her and Absorbing Man worked for the Illuminati for a little while, and then essentially the Hood was like, you know what, our enemies are too strong. We can't take them head on. Let's kill their families. And Titania's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. We're not going that far. That's too far. So that's what you see in these panels here is she just beats the living hell out of the Hood. She just takes him out entirely, and then her and Carl Creed, the Absorbing Man, just kind of go on their own life of crime, robbing jewelry stores and stuff after the fact, and try to stay out of jail still. But one of the things the Illuminati did, the reason why I wanted to bring this one up, in the She-Hulk show, there's a point where people are trying to attack She-Hulk with stolen Asgardian weapons. One of their main missions as the Illuminati were to steal Asgardian weapons so that they could use them against the heroes and such. So that is actually something that Titania did, not in the show, but still. So another big thing I wanted to point out, I don't really have a point for it, in the show, she has this big social media presence. Everybody kind of loves her and stuff. That's not a thing in the comics. It's kind of a fun little twist they added for the MCU, and I like it, and it's different. And I know the Marvel Strike Force version is going to feed off of that, but it's fun to see that version of arrogance versus what it is in the comics, because the personality is quite different, but it's just two different types of arrogance, which I find really interesting. So that is Titania. Power level. So the Marvel Strike Force doesn't care about power levels, but on Frosty Features we sure do. So the way this works is we start off with a multiversal. Multiversal means you can end reality, but not just as we know it, but as everybody knows it. You can end all of existence, all dimensions, all timelines at once. You are a god, right? Universal means you can end one reality, perhaps skip over to the next one and end that one. Cosmic means you are a threat on a planetary scale. You can take out planetary bodies with ease, and then maybe with a little bit of time, you can take out a solar system or a galaxy. Nuclear meaning you have power equivalent to that of a nuclear bomb. This is small cities all the way up to a planetary body with time and effort, right? Super soldier. Super soldier means that you are past human peak ability, right? So you have to have... You are past any point of training or whatever that can be made. You can probably take out a brick wall, maybe to level a building with that time and effort put in. Yes. City, you are trained to peak human ability, but you are still human. You are using, probably still using typically at Super Soldier, you see people move away from using guns and weapons and stuff, and they're just using their hands or some beams or something. City level, you're still using guns, maybe swords. You are extraordinarily skilled, and you can take out 95% of humans you run into, but many supervillains will best you, or heroes, respectively. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian that Hela spawns in Marvel Strike Force, who used to be a bit of a pushover, but now, actually deals a lot of damage situation because of Undying. But still, for the sake of argument, we are saying that Greg is your regular Joe on the street. We are putting him at regular human level. So if I have a manhole cover and a lot of some leather straps and some determination, I theoretically could take out Greg in this situation that I'm saying, right? For the sake of argument, right? So we're putting Greg at the level of a human, a regular human being, and in the case of Titania, the Marvel, second strongest woman, if you will, we put her at super soldier. So she's a tough one, right? So that most of your gamma types, and obviously, having their powers due to radiation like a nuclear bomb, puts most of them at the nuclear level. She's not at the level of She-Hulk, right? She tries to be, and she tries to outsmart, she tries her best to best her, whatever, but she's not quite there. She is, however, significantly stronger than somebody like Captain America, who would be the standard for the super soldier level, right? So what we're looking at is a high-end super soldier power level, because of how much she actually can lift, because she's human plus, but she's strength plus. She is significantly stronger than most super soldiers, but she's still not strong enough to make that nuclear impact. So Titania at the super soldier level, there we go. And coming back to it, according to Scopely, we didn't give a thing. So why would it, what would, there's nothing for me to really compare it to. They never gave her background on Titania as of the recording date, so there was nothing I could do about it. So that is Frosty Features Titania. I hope you all had a good time. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe this on YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. Also hit that bell. It helps me out quite a bit. Also, we record Frosty Features live on Twitch. I stream every week on Twitch, Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time at the link above. Come give us a follow, check it out. All that doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. Come hang out. We have a good time. Yeah, so that is Frosty Features, that comic book background. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and I hope that you all have a fantastic week. And most importantly, y'all, stay cool. Thick as a rhino. Skeeter. Oh, I never talked about Skeeter. No! No! Skeeter is what people called her when they were being mean to her when she was weak. So She-Hulk refers to her as Skeeter. Damn, I didn't say that. Damn it.